So we. So hi guys, it's me, Sam, and today I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man Homecoming is the sixth Spider-Man film we've now had in the cinema, and this one is the first standalone Spider-Man film we've had in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's directed by Jon Watts, who's directed Cop Car and Clown, neither of which I've seen, but I've heard sort of varying degrees of positive stuff about it, and it also has 8 writing credits, a bit like a Beyonce song. Right, so I will warn you, there will be spoilers within this review, so if you haven't seen the film, go away and watch it and then come back and watch this afterwards. So yeah, I'll just give you a brief overview of where the sort of film begins here. So film starts with Michael Keaton's character, a guy called Aaron Toomes, who is doing a clean-up job after the events of Avengers Assemble, and then out of nowhere, this government company takes all the contracts off him and he loses his money. Luckily for him though, he's managed to keep hold of some of the radioactive material that the aliens from the film left, and so he begins to sell these alien weapons on the black market. Go ahead 8 years, we find Spider-Man fresh off the back of the events of Captain America's Civil War, and he's struggling to find the superhero jobs for him to do. He's mainly saving cats out of trees and things like that. All of a sudden, he stumbles upon a bank robbery, and then this story and shit. I'm going to get into the things that I sort of liked about the film first. So the first thing I really liked was, even though it is the first one in this series, it's not an origin story. We've already seen it with the Andrew Garfield series and with the Sam Raimi series, the origin story of Spider-Man, and everybody knows this. So there's no Uncle Ben getting killed. There is no Spider-Man being bit by a radioactive spider. As far as we're concerned, all this stuff has already happened pre to Civil War, and I think this really helped the film because they're able to focus more of their time on Peter's time in school and his time sort of struggling as to cope with the daily sort of chores of being a superhero, because not every day is he going to Germany to fight the other Avengers. He's having to do the more menial tasks of saving cats out of trees and different things like that. So I thought that really helped the film and the storytelling element of the film. And then the second thing that I really liked were the nods to the greater Spider-Man universe. So this is where this guy comes in. Donald Glover's character plays a guy called Aaron Davis, who just so happens to be Miles' uncle. So this is no doubt seeding Miles to be a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward, and I think it's a really cool reference for the fans like me who maybe got a more greater knowledge of what's to come in the Spider-Man universe. I think there was really good references to the future villains, so Michael Mando's character, who some of you might know from Far Cry 3 as the villain Vass in that, and also his character in Better Call Saul. He's in the film very briefly. He's on this boat scene, very briefly talking to Michael Keaton's villain mates, and then he's also in the post-credit scene again talking to Michael Keaton, and it's seeding that the Scorpion, who he will be playing in the future, is maybe going to be the antagonist for a future Spider-Man movie. And there are also little references to the previous Sam Raimi series. So there's a point on the boat which is very sort of similar to the scene in Spider-Man 2 where Spider-Man stops a train running off the tracks, and then there's also a scene that recreates the iconic moment in first Spider-Man film with the upside down kiss, but Peter doesn't quite get there this time, but it's certainly a nod to that previous movie that everyone really loves. And then I think also another strong point of the movie were the villains. I think they had some of the cause that you really sympathise with. You know, these were salt of the earth guys who were putting their heart and soul into this clean-up job that were done over by the more rich and powerful people within the Marvel Universe. You know, the Tony Starks, and that's certainly referenced throughout the film as well. And I think you understand why these people do what they do. They are just trying to provide for themselves and provide for their family, and you really sympathise with their cause. Whereas you take a sort of weaker film within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is Thor: The Dark World, where you can never really grasp what it is that the villain's trying to do in that movie. In this, it's the complete opposite. You totally understand and sympathise with him. I don't think you're really on his side, but you can certainly, you can grasp why he's doing what he's doing. And then I think one thing they also got really right was Tom Holland as Spider-Man, you know, you really believe that this was a 15-year-old kid. It wasn't like Tobey Maguire, who looked like he'd be picking up his pension after he's doing the Spider-Man film, yet he's still in high school. And it wasn't like Andrew Garfield, who would, you know, he also looks quite a lot older than he was supposed to be. I think you really believe that Tom Holland was this young kid, that Peter Parker is, you know, he's supposed to be a 15-year-old kid and not, you know, not really sort of chiselled away yet by the universe, by the world and the hardships that come in life. I think, you know, he's very sort of idealistic, and you really get this point sort of coming through, really. And I think a real strong point in the movie and going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that they're going to have this young sort of guy playing Spider-Man. So yeah, now I'm going to get into the things that I maybe didn't like about the film so much. So I think Iron Man's role in the movie was something that sort of didn't sit with me particularly well. I thought he didn't really need to be in the movie, and the idea that Spider-Man is doing the bidding of this billionaire is kind of a bit weird and doesn't really fit his character at all. That he, you know, as it's mentioned in the film, he's supposed to be the friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man, but he's doing the work of this billionaire. And I think Iron Man didn't really need to be in the movie. Like, he could have paid lip service to him by saying, you know, oh, you know, Iron Man's the guy who made his suit, and Iron Man's the one who's sort of giving him the platform to be able to be Spider-Man. But I think it was purely for an advertising reasons that they got Iron Man in it. And even though Spider-Man is pretty much the biggest asset the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, you know, you speak to anybody and they know who Spider-Man is, they didn't really need the extra pull of Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man being in this movie to get people into the cinema. I didn't really see the point in it, and it's got to the point also with Iron Man where he's become a bit like Superman in the sense that he's so overpowered with all these different gadgets he's got and everything that he can do. You know, he's now able to apparently control Iron Man from sitting anywhere in the world, and so, you know, he's able to do far too much, and this takes the element of threat sort of out of the movie, really. And yeah, Iron Man didn't really sit with me so well. Also, the final battle scenes, having mentioned, you know, Man of Steel already, these had a touch of a sort of similar vein as to those battle scenes, the final battle scenes in that film had as well, in the sense that you couldn't really tell what was going on. Everything was sort of a bit of a spin and a blur, and I think this is kind of maybe down to the fact that John Watts, the director, hadn't really done much action films beforehand. It was very much much like in a film such as like Quantum of Solace, where you have a guy directing who, yeah, he can do the scenes where people are sort of chatting with each other and do it, things like that, but when it came to actually doing the fight scenes, he couldn't project them in a sort of good enough way. Contrast this with something such as Wonder Woman, where in all the action scenes they're very cleverly shot in the sense that Patty Jenkins manages to slow each frame down so she focuses on Wonder Woman, and she also lights the scenes in such a way that Wonder Woman is constantly visible, whoever she's fighting, and this allows you to view a bit more of the sort of fighting experience of what's going on with these characters. And this is something that I felt the film was really lacking, and was one of the most disappointing elements of the movie for sure. And I think the final thing I didn't like was also one thing that I did sort of like to begin with, was the fact that the story for the villains was that these big corporations were, you know, doing over all these sort of little guys, but that theme isn't really fleshed out particularly. It's where the beginnings of all these villains sort of stories are, but then once it sort of gets into the movie, that's sort of put to the side, and it's not really part of the movie anymore. I think it would have made for a more interesting film had Peter maybe stepped back and thought about how, you know, big corporations and, you know, his friends such as Tony Stark were affecting these sort of small guys that he was sort of fighting against. So yeah, just going to some of my concluding thoughts on the film now. So overall, I thought, you know, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was sort of a really fun and engaging, sort of strong addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've released 16 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, and I'd say this is probably around the 6 or 7 mark. And I probably enjoyed it a bit more than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'd probably sort of give it around sort of like a 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, it was a pretty strong movie. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, comment down below your thoughts of the movie, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Don't forget to check out the links in the description below to my Twitter and my blog, and keep an eye out for videos coming over the next few days and weeks.